Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast where I bring you the best and the brightest in the world of business, marketing, and personal growth to help you harness your inner tenacity and drive your career forward. My guest today is Jessie Draper, a mother of 3 boys, which is probably her biggest accomplishment. But she's also the founding partner of Halogen Ventures, focused on early stage investing in consumer tech companies led by female and co-ed teams. Jessie is the first solo female GP in LA and also a 4th generation venture capitalist. And we're definitely going to dig into that. She is a creator and host of the Emmy-nominated television series The Valley Girl Show and host of the MOMumental Podcast. We have a lot to dig into. We're going to talk about her mission, what drives her, and her company. So let's get to it. Jessie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, welcome. And let's just do a quick shout out to the man who connected us, Mr. Jay Rosenzweig, international man of mystery, the ultimate connector. Real quick homage here. What do you love most about Jay?
He's a major connector. He's also very, very supportive of women in business.
Totally.
And he does that in so many different parts of his life. He really, he does like a whole women report every year, the Rosenzweig report on women in business. And I'm so grateful. He's one of my investors and advisors, and I just love him.
He is the best. And I want everyone out there, I'll link it up to Jay's annual women's report. It's fantastic. Features some of the best and the brightest. A lot of names you recognize, a lot of names you may not, and sharing their wisdom as well. So let's get back to the guest of honor, Jessie here. 4th generation VC. 4 generations. Tell us a little bit about your family history.
Yeah, my great grandfather was the first venture capitalist on the West Coast, and then my grandfather, who's still around and kicking in 96, he came out west, was at Sutter Hill, and then started Draper Richards, and now they have the Draper Richards Kaplan Foundation, which is they help sort of fund nonprofits, and you have to be self-sustaining in 3 years, but you get sort of money from them for 3 years until you're a self-sustaining nonprofit. And they've helped things like Room to Read and many nonprofits around the world. And then my dad started Draper Fisher Jurvetson. Now he runs Draper Associates, and was one of the first investors in Tesla and SpaceX and all sorts of fun stuff.
So, I mean, you think about it. I mean, so much has changed in the lifespan of your family. And growing up as a little girl, did you know this was the route you were going to go into, or were there other options? Was there no other options on the table? Like, did you know that you were going to the family business?
No, I was a girl. And spoiler alert. And I used to shy away from even sharing anything about my family because there's a lot of preconceived notions when you say you're 4th generation of anything. And it was not a direct route for me. But also I think it's a really important piece of my story because I was raised by incredible men. But because I was raised by men, I didn't think I could go into this industry. And so
Why?
Because there just weren't any women in it at all. Like I grew up I'm the oldest of 4, and my 2 brothers also run venture firms. And we all kind of like work separately, but like we've done a deal on occasion together. And, they went straight into it. But I looked at my aunt, who was an actress, like when I was starting at the age of 8 or something. My aunt was an actress, and she was sort of a successful actress. She was on a show called 30 something. And I was like, oh, that's what women do. Like my mom raised 4 kids, but a traditional job for a woman is an actress. So like any young girl, I went to Hollywood, went into entertainment, had some success, was on a Nickelodeon show, did a bunch of movies. And I simultaneously was kind of like over it because I'd go to these cattle calls, be 500 people in a room, they'd look just like me. I'd get into the producer's office. They'd be like, don't speak. I don't care what your name is. Like, turn around. No, we're not even going to have you like read or whatever. It was just like very degrading.
So dehumanizing. What a terrible process.
Terrible. It was terrible. I'd just be like, hi, I'm Jessie. They'd be like, sort of like, I don't care. I'm like, okay. Great.
Bye.
So I just thought that was like a terrible situation. And I'm like, I can be so much more productive. And it was those early days of like the blogosphere. People were just putting video content online. And I went, because I was a Z-list celebrity on this Nickelodeon show, I was invited to the first Twitter conference. And so I went to the first Twitter conference at the Skirball Center in LA. It's probably 2008. And I said, okay, well, I have 6 months till I film this show I'm on, and I'm going to move home and start a tech talk show. I'm going to like combine these two worlds because I feel like there's something interesting happening with social media. So I moved home, started this show in my garage, before Elon Musk was on the cover of magazines. He was on my ridiculous talk show. He and I both wish it would die from the internet, but it's still there. And
the internet doesn't, things live forever. Yep.
I interviewed tons of incredible entrepreneurs, but I was only interviewing men in tech. And so I made this initiative to interview 50% women in tech, and they came. And this was like Sheryl Sandberg before anyone knew who she was, and before she'd written Lean In, and Jessica Alba when she started Honest Company, and Julia Hartz from Eventbrite. And so I created this tech talk show. We were like one of the first video content companies to partner with Forbes.com and Mashable. All these tech news sites were looking for video tech content. And we were really the only people running a tech talk show. And it was super fun and silly and ridiculous. And then we took it to TV, was nominated for an Emmy, built out like a tech news blog. We acquired another tech news blog in Los Angeles. And then I started just seeing the opportunity where women were coming to me and they were like, hey, I have this great company. And I'd say, it's a little early for the show, but I love what you're doing. Can I negotiate some sweat equity? And ultimately, I started writing small checks. And some of those did really well for me. And I then had like a little track record to go off of. And my husband, I remember, sort of pointed out to me like, so we're barely breaking even with this like show you're doing. And I had this opportunity to syndicate, but I was staying up 24/7, turning around these episodes, like had to close caption them. It was just like this old system. I'm sure it's better now. And we were in San Francisco locally, and they wanted us to do Seattle and somewhere in Arizona. And I was like, wait, you're not going to give me more money to do this. How can I even, like, this is like a one-woman show already. Like, I can't do this without more money. And so my husband's like, you're going to be working harder. Like, let me get this straight. You're going to be working harder, but like, you're not going to be making any more money.
Yeah. What are you doing here?
Yeah. What are you doing?
Why are we doing this? What's the end goal?
Totally. And so he said, your investments are going pretty well. Why don't you look into doing that? So I think in the back of my head, I knew the business. I think eventually I probably knew I was going to go into this, but I had to kind of find my own way, be an entrepreneur first. And really, there were no women. Like, there were no women in this industry. And so I just didn't get it. I was just like, well, I can't do it, even though all the men are doing it, because I'm female. And so I then went and raised my first fund with my little track record, pitched a lot of the guests on my show. Not Elon. I would love him to invest. That would be nice.
Right. It's got a little bit of a bankroll.
Like, yeah, it would be like easier. And then I'm now on my third fund. We're in the middle of raising our third fund.
Congrats.
And thank you. So when we have
let me ask you this. It's amazing. 78 companies, women led, mostly. I mean, what's the, I want to go back for a second here, but what's the criteria for the companies that you invest and work with?
So we do early stage consumer tech and some B2B software. We are, right now, we're very focused on future of family. So that's anything supporting the family at work, at home, the physical health of the family. So some consumer healthcare, and then the financial health of the family. But we're funding, 3 people in a room with an idea. Like, we're the earliest stage of capital. So we really get a bet on people's dreams, and I love it.
Do you bet on the jockey or the horse?
I love this question. I'd bet on the jockey, because I bet on the entrepreneur, and like the horse, you do have like data around. But ultimately the jockey is going to like lead the horse to victory. Right. And so this is a people business. It's all about the people. like I spend hours getting to know these people inside and out, what makes them tick, why, how are, like, are they going to take this?
How
It's a
they're
10
wired.
year, yeah, like it's a 10
And
year marathon with them. So you really need to like believe in the people
so
because they get you there.
let's dig into that a little bit. I'm in the people business, being a recruiter by trade, and I want to talk about those characteristics, right? Like, let's talk
Yeah.
about some of those core characteristics. What's your top three? I want to really kind of dig in for all the founders out there. This is going to be a quick little master class. Welcome to our TED Talk here. Um, those are the skills. Like anytime I'm watching, I watch Shark. My daughter's 11. I have 11-year-old and a 5-year-old son. My daughter, we watch Shark Tank almost every night. She loves Shark Tank, and I've had the honor to meet a couple of the sharks. I know a couple of them, and she loves it. Oh, Dad, how do you know Mark Cuban? And I was like, well, blah blah blah. But that's not even the part that she loves. She loves when they talk about when they make an offer and they go, I'm investing in you. I don't even care about this product so much, but I believe in you. And I think that's a
Yeah.
piece that really stands out. So talk to us a little bit about what are those traits? What are those questions? How do you get to the chi of someone's character that you're going to invest in?
Yeah, I mean, now I have a lot of reps, and we've seen like the good, bad, and the ugly. I would say just a quick side note about Shark Tank. It's so funny because I know Mark, but I've seen how it's changed my industry because now we have these pitch days where we'll have like
Hmm.
10 companies come in and pitch. And I've had people like shout at me, like be like, no, 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 it's 100,000. We want 100,000 for this. And I'm like, so we're not Shark Tank. So like, we're going to have a conversation. This is very different from the show if that's all you know about
Yes.
investing. And it's so funny. Like they think the deals happen that fast when really that's like a full day of
No.
filming and
Right. And
negotiation.
there's also a big disclaimer on it too. Like there's a lot of things behind the scenes when they make the offer. It's not a binding offer when they do it on the show.
Totally.
There's a lot of due diligence that has to go into them on the back end, on the back end too. But like, what are those characteristics? Like what is that? What are those, let's call them deal breakers. What are the must haves?
The must-haves are something I've stayed true to from the beginning is really the idea of like an open mind. Some people might consider it partially like coachability, but like the openness to change and pivot. And so I actually ask a lot of questions in the first meeting where I'll sort of say, okay, what if the manufacturer burnt down and you weren't going to be able to manufacture in Denver anymore. And if they say to me, oh, that'll never happen. That's like never going to happen. It's a great manufacturer, blah, blah, blah. I'll walk away, honestly,
Hmm.
because that means they can't think through the problem and
It's a
solve the
closed
problem.
mindset.
And I want the person who's like, you're right. Let me think about that. There is this other manufacturer I've been talking to, but I probably like once we get bigger, we need to diversify our manufacturing, like, and how that looks. And, we might, like we had a whole pull, all of our manufacturing at a lot of our companies was pulled from China. Like during COVID, we had to like, or anyone who had a physical product and was manufacturing in China, like that was like a major issue.
Hmm.
And these things really happen. Like I used to
Yeah, it's
ask
the real
questions
world.
before COVID. Yeah, like before COVID, I'd be like, what if we had an international pandemic and everything shut down? What would that look like?
It
Because you just
happened.
want to see that they're gonna roll with it. And then in terms of so the deal breaker for me there would be like the red flag would be like, no, we're gonna go this way. This is how it's gonna go. It's gonna go straight up the hill, and then we're gonna be $1 billion company. I'm like, well, it's never straight up the hill, actually. Never ever. And then really what I do is I look through 78 founders. I mean, we've had so many different types, but I look through the biggest successes in my portfolio, like the
Right.
companies
So
who,
you follow the data, you
sold on
follow the
Walmart or
patterns.
Twitter. Yeah. Like, and I'm constantly trying to analyze like what was different about them. And I'd say like the one through line that I think they all have is they don't want to be the star. It's about the work. It's about the customer. And if you point out a problem, they are obsessed with it until they solve it. Like they just don't even care. And then if they don't care about anything else and they want to just work and create the best business, listen to all the customers, and they're obsessive with their customers. And it's also like there's this girl, Esther Crawford. She was one of my founders. she started this company, Squad App, which we sold to Twitter sort of like in the beginning of COVID. It did pretty well for us. And when I invested in that company, it was an audio technology that plugged into Amazon's Alexa, which at the time was pretty new and novel.
Right.
Then she turned it into, that wasn't working. So then all of a sudden it was this social media app called Molly, which was a problem for like a multitude of reasons, the name alone. And it was this like younger social media app, and the users weren't engaging enough and all this stuff. So then she pivoted again, and she realized that something that they liked in that social media app was this screen sharing technology she created in Squad App. So she changed it to Squad App, and it's this screen sharing technology where you can like watch a YouTube video with like 5 of your friends, and see their faces on it. And so you can imagine it blew
Multiple
up during
FaceTime
COVID.
screens. Yes, exactly.
Yes. And so everyone would like do funny selfies with the videos they were watching. I don't know. It blew up. And so she then sold that to Twitter. Like that was the company. It was so dramatically different from what I had invested in, but it didn't matter because I bet on that jockey. I bet on the horse, and not the horse. I bet on the person who was going to take it all the way. And
you knew she was going to innovate. You knew she was going to change.
Like, this is working. This isn't working. And she just wanted to solve the problem. And those are the best founders, like heads down, care
not
about
scared
the
to roll up the sleeves, do the work.
Yeah.
Last year's a crazy stat from doing our research. Last year, women-owned businesses generated 1.8 trillion, yet they still struggle to raise funding, right? Like, where's the system broken, and how are we going to fix it?
So the system is broken in so many ways, but I actually think it's a bigger problem actually than just female and minority led companies and funds. The bigger issue is actually at the LP level. So that would be my limited partners, like our friend Jay, who introduced me to you, is one of my LPs, and he's like just the exception to the rule. But the typical LPs come from university endowments, pension funds for like, teachers unions, any kind of like university, or a lot of there are also these advisors who advise the majority of the capital. Right now, all that capital has no diversity of thought or location. It's all managed kind of by the same crew of people and the same handful of companies. And it's all going to the same 5 venture capital funds in Silicon Valley. And those aren't even venture capital funds anymore. You have Sequoia, you have Andreessen, they've all filed as RIAs. They're private wealth management groups now because they want to do different things. They're basically PE money at this point. And the problem is emerging managers. So because these limited partners are continuing to fund the same 5 funds, there's no room for new managers, male, female, or whatever. There's no money going towards them from these institutions because the people at the top of the institution, and they're the ones telling me this, they'll say, well, we don't get fired if we keep doing the same thing and like have these same sort of like basic returns. I'm like, well, if you invest in an emerging manager, like this could be a much bigger return for you. Also, how are you going to know who the next managers of the future are? So I think that's actually like all the kings sitting on top of their piles of gold, not diversifying the money, where you have University of Arizona outsourcing to, say, some advisor in New England. And instead of having University of Arizona invest their own capital in Arizona,
right?
Like local, like build up your community. And that's the problem. And then the other issues are the networks. Everyone's going after the Stanford and Harvard engineers still.
Right. They're not diversifying. They're not diversifying.
Totally. And they say things to me like, well, women don't come to me. And I'm like, yeah, well, you got to find the women and not just go to the same groups of people.
It's so crazy because, like, to think about it, I mean, I'm no spring chicken, but to think about when this, we'll call it this evolution, the whole venture capital investing, entrepreneurship, we'll call it 20, 25 years. It was a Wild West, and it was crazy, and it was opportunity everywhere. And now it's kind of become so, institutionalized and so archaic, and the old guard. It's so counterintuitive to what the ethos really is about: innovation and a diversity of thoughts, and coming up with new ideas and sourcing new talent.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and actually, it's funny. I was having a conversation with my friend Meredith Finn, who's amazing. She was at Salesforce Ventures, and she's just like this incredible operator. And she was saying that actually you have an opportunity as a recruiter to start diversifying the talent pool. And, if you're in recruiting, that could be a really great place to just start. I'm constantly thinking about diversity. Like,
Well,
what do our companies look like at the earliest stages? Like, do we have diversity of age, race, and gender? Like, I want to build these billion-dollar businesses of the future that look different than they do today. And I want it to represent all of, the United States, not just like one sector. And so I think with the change of the capital distribution, which hopefully will happen because I stand on my soapbox and shout about it all day long. And then also you could actually kind of start a movement in terms of recruiting and looking for just making sure you're thinking about diversity too, and making sure that, you're not pulling from the same talent pool. I think that can help
we
us.
do. We do. We do over here. And that's a big thing with a lot of our companies come to us. And it's one of those things where I try to really assess, is this just a throwaway comment that they need to say, like a boilerplate, make sure diversity. But diversity really comes, it's not always necessarily the backgrounds of people, but it's diversity of mindset and diversity of sourcing. Where are we finding these candidates? Are we looking in the same old places, or are we looking in new places, right? And breaking down biases and barriers and all that too. And you look at me on the outside and you see white, middle-aged, middle-class male. That doesn't mean I am not, super mindful, active, engaged, and committed to diversity and inclusion. I mean, and that's really important. And that's what we do when we work with a lot of our companies. It's about our processes and how we find and all the recruiters that we work with. And the other part, Jessie, it's a Trojan horse. Us recruiters who are in this line of work, deal flow. We hear so many things. We are in the mix. We hear opportunities. We're talking to candidates. So there's an opportunity for a lot of us good recruiters here to be in that intersection and bringing opportunities to the table of a lot of the portfolio companies and VCs that I work with. So it's kind of a fun little world, and that's why I love talking to folks like yourself. Let's talk about Halogen. What was the mission when you set out to build Halogen, and what are you doing consistently to make sure you're staying on track?
Oh my gosh, big question. But I was actually still sort of pondering.
We could
I was
put a pin.
pondering, well, you said I'm a white middle-aged guy, but I don't want you to think wrongly. And I think this is the problem. Like, I was raised by incredible white men, like, also,
It's
and
a real bias.
it's a bias, and it's like we can't talk about it that way. Like, we actually just need to look for people like yourself who are bringing everyone together. I think instead of separating everyone into these different groups, like, we need to just make sure we're representing everyone, have all voices at the table. But it's like, I know that predominantly white middle-aged men are just getting the bad rap, but I also think that, like, we can't say all of them are the enemy. Like, it's just the
No,
wrong
and
way to look
there's
at
so
it.
many allies, right? And then like, I mean, I'm not going to
Yeah.
go down the whole thing of whatever. I'm not going to go down that road right now, but it's true and it's hard. And I see it from a recruiting perspective when it comes to ageism, right? It used to be, oh, they're only hiring, white middle class males. Now it's the hardest sector to find jobs for,
Yeah. Oh,
right?
that's
Versus finding
interesting.
just the best available talent.
Yeah.
And I work with those companies. I go, I go, what's more important, to find the best available talent or diversity? And it's a tough balance. And it comes down to the companies that understand diversity is in the sourcing, to give everyone an equal opportunity to find the best available talent. If it just
Yeah.
happens to be that the best candidate that we saw and we want is a white middle class male, but we made sure that we did our due diligence and we were able to touch every talent market, under every underserved, underrepresented talent market out there, then we did our job.
Yeah. I
And
think
that's the
that's
way I like
great.
to. That's the way I like to approach it and have those conversations.
I just look at it like I love everyone. I
It's
don't want
tough.
anyone to feel like, look, like, it kills me that you're feeling guilty because of, how you look. And that just like makes me sad. It's like, we need to figure out how to bring everybody together. But you're doing that with recruiting. You can make big change there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then your question in terms of
Yes,
how I stay
Halogen,
on
bring it back.
track. I don't know how I
Bring
stay
it.
on track. I just had 2 girls on maternity leave. Um, and these are the issues you deal with. I like support women, but I had 2 girls that go on maternity leave at the same time, and it was hell. It was the hardest. It was the hardest couple of months of my life. One was my business partner, And they just came back, so I feel like I'm on track now. But if I
There you
talked to
go.
you a couple months ago, I was basically just holding my breath till these people came back, trying to fill their spot, but not knowing they were coming back. I'm like, I can handle this. And I felt like I just couldn't move forward. But, right now, something I'm kind of just struggling with is I work around the clock. People are like, why are you emailing me at 2 a.m.? But that's just like how, I don't know, it's like a silent time in my house. I just sort of like do emails all the time. And I'm trying to figure out how to separate work and my personal life because I'm realizing it's bleeding in too much and I need to lighten my load when I'm at home. Like, and that's something I'm sure so many people struggle with, but
Of
I'm trying to
course.
figure out what do I need more
Right.
meditation? Do I need to like find more me time? That's something because I'm realizing it's actually wearing on my body. And my New Year's resolution this year was health and wellness. But I don't know if I had to reschedule you last week. I can't remember. I had to reschedule a bunch of people because I got rotavirus. I don't know if you've ever had this, but it's the worst thing ever. And I like new experiences, but this is not one I want
This is
anyone to
not a
have.
fun one.
And I couldn't keep anything down. My body was literally falling apart. And I feel like
That's not
it's been
fun.
this sign that I need to
Your body's tired.
my body is like, you need to chill out. And I don't know how to do that.
It's so crazy because there's not a silver bullet, solution for this. And, the word is harmony, right? People talk about work-life balance, but the word is harmony. And because it's balance means it has to be, one side or the other, but how do you integrate them together? How do you make it work for you? And from what I hear from talking to so many incredible folks is prioritization, right? And boundaries. And I think that's really defining what works for you and testing into things and having, hey, listen, right now it's a no phone zone. Like for very small example, in our house, there's no phones at the dinner table. Anytime we're eating,
I love that.
phones need to be away, right? All the kids, no devices. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes my little 5-year-old, we give him the iPad just to shut him up so he eats his meal, right? Like we get it, right? We're parents.
You
We
got to survive.
understand that, right? I want to eat. I want to have a quiet meal, right? I don't need him bothering me. But it's about connectiveness. And personally, I'm so addicted to this thing. Like this is my third arm over here. So what I've had to do is physically put the phone in another room because the mental connection of thinking, I need to connect. I need to see if I missed a message. What's next? What's going on here? And we need to find those times and slowdowns. And that's a real issue and problem for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
9 to
Adam,
5
thank
is
you.
like,
I
shit, my
really
work day's over.
I
I'm
needed
parking
this
my phone.
therapy. I really needed this therapy today. I knew you were the right person to ask about this.
Well,
I like that. Prioritization, boundaries.
Just it comes down to that. And again, it's practice. And we all feel that burnout. Family tech is interesting. And I assume, COVID was a big positive uptake, no pun intended, on family tech. But just for everyone out there who really, what does that encompass? What is family tech all about?
So we look at it as like future of family. And so family tech is in there, but it's so much more than family tech. Families need so much more. We actually did this huge study on what families needed. We interviewed hundreds of families across the country, and we sort of said, what are you willing to spend money on? What technology would you like? What are you missing? And ultimately, they were saying things like, ultimately, parents want more time. Parents were like, I want more time. I want more opportunities for my kids. A lot of them said they wanted more financial management tools for their family. They wanted more meal services, which I thought had been done, but I was like, okay, I can go find more family meal services for sure.
Right. Did that saturated, right?
Yeah, I thought that was very saturated, but it's
Ghost
like they want
kitchens and
more
meal delivery.
options. Yeah. And so family tech, anything kind of like any kind of technology supporting the family, but we break it into childcare. And then we do a lot of interesting services around childcare. We have everything from a company called Binti that is now working with the government, and they put adoption online. And so they actually placed 60% more children in homes last year than the government had ever done because it was all being done by hand. And then, yeah, I love that. That's how I feel every time I talk about Binti. They're amazing. And then like
Sorry, I'm done. I'm done with the
I
sound
love
effects.
But we look at that. We look at there's some future of work in there too, just around the childcare. We have Upwards, which has 66,000 in-home vetted childcare locations. They're the most affordable option for childcare. They offer government subsidies, and then they also have a corporate benefits program, and it's run by this woman, Jessica, who's incredible. And so we're really trying to solve childcare, but then we're also looking at healthcare of the family. You know, the last resort after COVID is going to be going into the hospital. Like, what are all the touch points before? What are the telehealth opportunities? Who are the new insurance providers? Like, what does that look like? And then you have fintech, like families just wanted better, not only financial literacy technologies, but also just better financial management tools. So we have like Elvest, which is the largest financial management platform for women, and it's the only one that takes childcare into account. And then we are doing, we have like some really interesting companies right now that I'm excited about. But so everything kind of supporting the family. We need more technologies.
I mean, childcare is so crazy and it's so expensive in this day and age, and there's just a need for it. And then we saw it during COVID, how hard it was for working parents to be productive at home and trying to school their kids and keep them busy. And it was a disadvantage. And I saw it from a recruiting perspective, from a talent perspective, that folks who don't have kids or single had such an advantage as far as being productive and excelling in their careers. Something we really don't talk about. And I would love to actually see some data on the side point. I'm going to see if there's any data on that. Like two equal folks at a company, one with kids, you know, pre-COVID versus a career trajectory now, how that affected them. Right. So I think that's I think it's an interesting data point we'll get to. So, what is that next industry or sector that's ripe for disruption? Maybe a crystal ball in front of you. What do you think it is? What do you think's coming down the pipe?
I mean, people have so many different opinions. Like, obviously, climate is pretty critical right now. I think it's really, you just look at the holes in society. I think we're trying to solve childcare, and that touches everything everyone should care about. You know, you hear people like, I just want to get the homeless off the street. Well, actually, if we solve childcare, we can do a lot of that. And so we just invested in a company called Raza that is helping expunge criminal records, which is like part of like our incarceration system is super messed up. Our foster care system is super messed up. And I feel like it's this little triangle. You have like sort of childcare, which can't be solved without foster care, which can't be solved without like solving incarceration, because 70 to 80% of our
recidivism.
Yeah. Well, and in your business, actually, the expunging the records should be really important, because
especially for low-level drug offenses. That are being, wiped out.
1 out of 3 people in the United States have something on their criminal record.
We'll sidebar. I've been working with an organization called Halogen Ventures over the last 5 years that does a lot of this work. I'll sidebar with you on that one. But Jess, what's keeping you up at night these days besides writing emails at 2:00 in the morning?
I mean, I really want to solve childcare. I want to get these kids off of the street, because, if we solve the foster care system, which is just broken in society, we get 50% of the people off of like the homeless off the street, and incarceration should go down significantly. That keeps me up at night. And then also just gender equality. I mean, I think I feel it every day, and some days that really gets me down. I feel like I need to keep pushing that forward and fighting however I can to make sure that women are getting, equal treatment and also equal pay, and we're getting funded. And so that's really important to me, but we need incredible allies like you too.
And we appreciate that. So how can men be the best allies possible?
Something I think you can do is just talk to your daughters about money, talk to your significant others about money, talk to your sisters, talk to your, moms. I think women for so long have been told not to talk about money, and it's actually like done us a huge disservice. And so I think just bring them into the conversation when you're talking about money and what investments you're making and what you're thinking about in terms of like saving for college or whatever. bring them into those conversations. And then for like the greater workforce, I think make sure there's a female represented in the boardroom, like mentor women. Don't feel like you should only mentor, men who you see yourself in. Like these women are like dying for these mentors too. And the workforce is predominantly made up of men. So we need male mentors.
We need male
But
mentors.
I think it's really important. So I think about those things, but make sure you're talking to your, daughters, sisters, mothers about money. And I think that'll help everything.
Love it. Great advice. So let's bring it home here, Jessie. I'm actually going to put a little spin on my traditional question that I go here. What is the single greatest piece of advice that you ever got from your grandfather that you apply today in business?
That I apply today in business.
Something that he taught you that's just ingrained.
He has the best spirit, and he always said, if you like do what you love and the money will come. And I do believe that if you like keep working hard. But the other thing that he really like makes me think about a lot is when you're having a really hard day, he always says, it's a hard day today, but it's going to make a great story. And like, just to start laughing about it before it's a story, I think it just like, keeps your heart happy, keeps your health intact. So you're not just like stressed out about it.
And it puts things in perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Totally.
One of my quotes that I keep saying every day, because it's been a rough year in the world of tech and recruitment, and everything. And one of the quotes that I keep saying to myself that it came from one of my mentors, Claude Silver, works for the great Gary V, is we've all survived 100% of our bad days. Mm-hmm. Right? We get through it, we figure it out, and we continue to march on.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. When shit gets tough, really, really think about it. And listen, like there's a lot of folks out there where that's a real issue. And, mental health is a real thing. And I think we need to look out for each other. And just ask like your friend, like check in with people genuinely, like, how's it going? What's happening? You good? Right? Like people, we lost that connection over COVID and because we've been apart. And we need to bring that back. But let's finish on a high note here, Jessie. Last but not least, you look back on, your life in those moments when things weren't great and all those times where you really had to dig down deep and harness that inner tenacity that every great entrepreneur has and pull yourself up. And on the flip side, you sit here with gratitude for this life, this family, this business, this career that you've created and all these women that you've empowered these businesses. What is your focus? What is your beacon? Jessie Draper, what is your North Star in life?
My North Star in life.
Yes, we finished strong here on the podcast.
I think my North Star is really, I'm constantly thinking about how can I fund women? How can I make sure that billions of dollars is going towards women as well? And there's, people ask me all these questions like, what if there's a guy on the team? And I'm like, we have 3 male CEOs and 78 companies. So it's like no discrimination there. But I'm constantly thinking, how can I raise more money to fund like the next woman? I want to have so many female CEOs at the top that, a little boy could look up to them, a little girl could look up to them. And it's just normal to like have 50% female business leaders. I think that's what I sort of wake up in the morning and I love working towards.
I love it. Jessie Draper, I want to thank you so much for joining me. And if you want to learn more on how to invest in women, check out halogenvc.com. We're going to link it up. Follow Jessie on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We'll have all the information below. Jessie, I want to thank you so much for joining me and sharing your wisdom with our audience today.
Thank you so much, Adam. This was so fun. And I'm excited to hear it.
Awesome. Good stuff. And everyone out there, if this episode meant something to you, leave a review, a rating. It goes a long way. Find out more at thepodcast.com. Follow us on all of our social media channels. Remember, be good to yourself, be better to others, and catch us next week for another great episode of the podcast. Take care, everybody. That's how we do it.
Thank you so much.